Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Sam Grayston. On today's Google Hangout, we're talking about some of the governance changes which have taken place for the Co-operative Group in the past year. Thank you very much for tuning into this broadcast rather than watching the Apple keynote on the other side. Probably some new iPads and things. But anyway, thank you for tuning into ours on Google Plus and on YouTube. As with last week's Hangout, we've got a variety of guests with us today. Just so you know, views expressed today by our guests are personal views, not necessarily those of the Co-operative Group, although we will be dealing with the specific governance structures relating to the Co-operative Group. We've had some great feedback from the last two Hangouts about the half-year results of the group and community activities. There's still some time to watch those if you like. You can go along to s.coop/half-year results or s.coop/community activities, or you can visit the links on our Google Plus event page. Also, we'd love to have your feedback on this Hangout too, so you can visit, there's a website which we'll put on the Google Plus event page, and let us know what you think so we can learn and develop for the next time. Okay, so my first guest tonight is Andrew North, who you may well remember from our first Hangout. He's the Regional Secretary for the Southwest region of the Co-operative Group. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Sam.
How are you?
Fine, thanks, Sam. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yes, yeah, really good. We were going to have Michael Harriott, who's Group Board Director, with us tonight. Michael lives in Ashburton, in Devon, and he's part of the Transitional Board. Unfortunately, he's actually been called into a board meeting today, so he's unable to join us. However, we are delighted to have Joan Kiesel with us. Joan is from the National Membership Team based up in Manchester, and she's been working on things like the new Member Council and training and development for those members. So lovely to have you. Hello, Joan. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Sam. Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
That's great to have you. We're also really pleased to have Ed Moss join us. Ed is the chair of the Co-operative Young Members Board, and he'll be giving us great insight into how he sees being able to play his part in the future of the Co-operative Group as well. Hi, Ed. How's it going?
Hi, Sam. Yeah, good, thank you. How are things with you?
Really well, thank you. Yes. We're out of the rain in Plymouth now, so that's nice. And then last but by no means least, we've got Faye Bowden, who's Membership Officer for the South and West. Faye's been involved in some of the Let's Talk exercise, which has helped shape and inform some of the ideas behind the governance strategy and the changes. Hello, Faye. How's it going?
Evening, Sam. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Viewers, please feel free to submit a question today. We'll do our best to get through all of them. You can use the Q&A feature on the Google Plus event page, or comment on the YouTube page. You can also follow us on Twitter @CoopMemberSW and get involved using the hashtag CoopMM, which is for Cooperative Members Meeting. Okay, first thing to do, I suppose, then, is to understand the story of how the governance changes came to be necessary and the process it's taken to do that. Andrew, I know that this is some of the things that Michael probably would have talked about, and you would have worked with Michael a lot over the past year on some of these changes. Perhaps you can give us some insight into how the governance changes came about and what sort of role Michael would have played in those changes and will continue to play in the future.
Sure, Sam, of course. I think the issues that the Co-operative Group faced have been really well documented, haven't they, over the last year or so. And what became very clear is that we needed to make some changes to our governance structure to make sure we didn't repeat some of the mistakes we've made in the past, which have left us in the position that we're in, and provide us with a really firm foundation that we can go forward from. We commissioned two pieces of research, one by Sir Christopher Kelly, who looked at the issues that the bank experienced and the governance-related issues there, and the other by Lord Miners, who looked at what was best practice in the governance structure and how we might employ some of those best techniques to make sure that we had a governance structure that was suitable for a cooperative. And Michael, as a director, has said on a number of occasions just how challenging he found it being an elected member appearing on a board of a £10 billion organisation. Because the board of the Co-operative Group, just like any board, is a sovereign body. It's ultimately responsible for the success of our organisation. So over the summer, we spent a lot of time, and Michael was intimately involved in this, building some proposals in consultation with our elected members across the country to look at what would be the best governance structure for us going forward, and that's brought in a number of new bodies. part of that process was a very lengthy and involved consultation with our elected members who gave very good views. We asked people, individual members, to give their views on Let's Talk as well, and that led to a vote about our new governance structure, a new set of rules which came into effect on the 1st of October, and we now enter a transitional phase. Michael stays part of that transitional phase because he's still going to be a board member until we actually recruit new board members to take their place. And perhaps a bit later I can say more about what those changes will mean and how members will be represented in the future, and I can explain more about the different roles that people have, Sam.
Yeah, that'd be really useful, actually. You started to mention things like boards, and people may have heard things about councils and other positions like that. Can you give us an overview of what the new governance structure of the cooperative group will look like, and particularly what our customer members will be able to play in the future?
Sure, of course, yeah. The board remains ultimately responsible for the society, and that will be made up very differently to how it has been so far. It's a bit different whilst we're in a transition phase, but when we get to electing a new board, and members will be asked to elect directors to that board, we'll have a board which consists of an independent chair, 5 independent non-executive directors, and those 6 people will all be recruited for particular skills that they will bring to the board in the future. So members will be asked to ratify those nominations to the board. We'll then have 3 positions in the board which are member nominated directors. They will again go through a very rigorous pre-selection process before they can go forward to elections. Make sure that we have people of the right calibre on our board, and the board will then be supplemented by 2 executive directors, one of whom is the Chief Executive Officer, who members may be aware we appointed Richard Pennycook as our Chief Executive in September. So that's the board, and the board will be ultimately responsible for holding the society to set the strategy and to determine its future, and also to hold the executive to account. Holding the board to account will be a members' council. And a lot of work's got to be completed to determine how that looks, how many people will be on there, who represents from the different constituencies, and the size of the council. And so members will be asked to elect new council members from May next year. Until then, we're in the transitional phase, and that's all about setting up the council. And the council, until then, will consist of all the current regional board members, and they will have a Senate, which will be the coordinating body, and the Senate will be the directors who step down from the board and the chairs of the regional boards themselves. So I think the slide does that quite well, and we will be asking members to put themselves forward to council in May next year if they want to stand for a position for election. The other key changes to governance structure is that until now our general meetings have been representatives only. They will be open to all members. Elections to all positions will be open on the basis of one member, one vote. And we'll be looking for other ways like this to engage members in giving their views on the society going forward.
Excellent, thank you. And I think just sort of mentioning something like this Hangout as another way of interacting with people, of course that principle of one member, one vote and listening to people is going to be very important to shape the future direction of our social goals strategies and our other strategies. And we've started to see some of that already through the Let's Talk initiative. Faye, you worked a little bit on the Let's Talk campaign. Can you tell us a bit more about how that came about and what we can expect to hear as a result of the input from the members?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Can do. So basically, the idea behind Let's Talk was for us to do what we need to do as a cooperative and meet the needs and aspirations of our members. So we needed to start a big consultation exercise with them all. Obviously, we've got quite a few members as a UK-wide organisation, and just get them to tell us what themes or issues were important to them, what resonated with them, and what they thought that we should be doing on their behalf. So we came up with 6 themes that they could work on. And we just invited people in a very informal manner to kind of contribute and input their ideas, and the themes were very broad, so it would cover kind of any topic they were interested in, really. So we ran those for 8 weeks online. There was a big consultation on our website, and 26,500 members contributed to that, which was brilliant. And that's not 26,500 contributions, that's individual members who kind of inputted into that process, which was brilliant. We do recognise that not everybody goes online or has access, so we also ran some events as well across the UK. So each region, we've got 7 regions across the UK, each region held physical events, at least one per region, for their members to come along and input, which was run by us as the membership teams. And then we also ran an event with young people as well. So for us in the South and West, this took place in Bristol, and we worked with one of our partners that we fund called Truth About Youth. They're a great organisation who come under the umbrella of the Prince's Trust, and they put on an event specifically targeted at young people to allow them to input really into what was important to them. And then the other thing we did was we worked with our elected members. So again, each region, each of our 7 regions had an area committee conference, and we ran a workshop as part of that. So elected members, again, with all their experience and understanding of what we do, again, put in their kind of views of how we could take those forward. So that was great. So at the moment, I think all that information is being crunched and looked at, obviously a lot to work through, but watch this space. We should be finding out very shortly what our key themes are that we're going to be concentrating on, kind of from our members, which is brilliant. And then we'll look at how we're going to take those forward.
Excellent, thank you, Faye. I mean, it's great to hear about how members have been involved in talking to us about governance changes and shaping the social goals agenda for the future. We've heard Andrew mention a little bit about the National Members Council. Joan, perhaps we could come to you now, because I know you're working quite specifically on the council. Could you take us through the idea behind the council, the story of where that's come from, and what role they're going to play in the future of the Co-operative Group?
Yeah, sure, Sam. One of the ways that it's been described that I really like is that it's a bit of a Twin Peaks approach. So Andrew mentioned earlier that the board is a sovereign body, and that's absolutely right. And then the Members' Council, which is a very innovative way of members' views and wishes being represented, is almost like the other peak in our Twin Peak governance model. And the council is going to have very specific responsibilities under rule, and these are summarised under 5 key headings. The first is to be a guardian of the society's purpose and its values and principles. And clearly, as a cooperative, that's really fundamental. So the council will be involved in things like producing an annual statement to members, commenting on how well they feel the society and the board is upholding the values and principles. They will be making sure that any changes to the rules are aligned with our values and principles as a cooperative. They'll also be getting involved in things like eligibility criteria for membership, so things which are really central to being a cooperative. The second area of work will be very much about holding the board to account for its performance and influencing that. So things like asking questions, requesting information about business performance and strategy, talking to the board about the ways in which we are investing in our communities, getting involved and discussing policy frameworks, business plans.
Are you right there, Joan? I think we've...
And they're all director elections. So yeah, I mean, some quite significant things. Another area is commenting on things like our award-winning sustainability report, executive remuneration and performance, and also the composition of the board itself. So, if you like, they are able to comment on and influence some very key areas of board activity. Clearly, however, they have a key role in representing the voice of members. So a third and very important role is this whole area of consultation and representation. So members may find going forward their council soliciting their views and asking them for feedback, just as we've been doing through Let's Talk, as Faye was talking about just then. So they will be very much making sure that that dialogue is there and that there are forums for exchange of ideas. And then finally, just some very important decision making and approvals responsibilities. They will be the people who will be approving any motions for resolutions or questions at our AGM that members submit. And they'll also be now, as you've indicated, deciding on the structures and composition of the council and any local structures going forward. So some very, very important decision-making approval roles and some really exciting work, lots of work in the
I bet, yeah, you've got your work cut out there, Joan.
We have, collectively, we have, yeah.
Absolutely,
team
yeah.
efforts,
Cooperation even, you know.
Absolutely, that's the word.
Great. I mean, it's great. It's very encouraging to hear all the different things that they're going to be involved with and the kind of responsibilities and work they're going to be doing. Thank you, Joan. Ed, I'd like to come to you now. You're the chair of the Co-operative Young Members Board. So you've come to the Co-op through a slightly different route to traditional elected cooperative members. Can you tell us a bit about the formation of the Young Members Board and what its remit is and the kind of things that you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. So the thing I guess that brought us into existence was you know, a realization that actually the membership of the whole movement, the average age was shifting upwards, and that traditionally in the past, you know, where the co-op was very good at, you know, handing on that baton of relevance down the generations, that was starting to weaken. So there was a decision made that we needed to find a way of starting to make the group and cooperation more relevant to younger people. So it was decided that we needed to set up a younger members board, mainly because actually there's some interesting statistics about membership anyway amongst younger people. So if you think that it's sort of around about the 13% mark of our membership are under 30, compared to say around 40% of the population. Some other interesting things about the democratic structure is that the number of members who are democratically elected, you can count on two hands out of all of them or thereabouts. It's certainly in the low percentages. Again, compared to you know, if they were representing a group, you know, representing the rest of our membership or society. So there were some two key problems there. So yes, the board were recruited in a different way. It went out to as an offer to get involved, and that you would be recruited on your interests in the movement, and also on values and principles. So I know there's been all sorts of discussions about, you know, the pros and cons of that, but actually for us it's been really interesting, because actually I would say that half the board would never ever have stepped forward to be elected. And probably the other half would have taken quite a lot of persuading to be elected. I certainly wouldn't have stood for election. You know, whenever I've been sent the voting packs, I kind of look at them and go, well, I have no idea who these people are. You know, what interest is it to me to vote, other than, you know, being, you know, some kind of civic duty. So yeah, so we went through a recruitment process. We then went and had some interviews where we were selected, and then we got together for the first time actually to meet Ewan back in July 2013. We met Ewan, and he laid down the gauntlet of the stark challenges that the group faced. And he made his commitment that he wanted to make sure that we were involved at every level, so from group board through the executive and right the way down through all the levels of delivery, right the way down to storefront. He said that, you know, one of the things he'd experienced of having a youth board in B&Q that wasn't tokenistic is that actually what a youth board can do is they can help translate what can sometimes be quite theoretical ideas into things that people can see, hear, and feel on the ground. And actually, if a strategy can't do that, then what's the point in doing it other than being quite, making us feel good in the organisation? It needs to be kind of practical. So yeah, and then from there we kind of had our first board meeting in August 2013. We ran through for a whole year. And then I think because of everything that was going on, a discussion was had where I think the elected members and the board and the executives didn't feel that they'd really had a chance to kind of get the best out of us through all the turmoil. So it was decided that we'd kind of carry on for another year and then start to look at what the future looks like for the board after that. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting year for us, as I'm sure you can imagine. Some of the challenges that we've worked on, just kind of briefly, we've looked at. We started off actually with purpose and strategy. So coming in, as a group of people that needed to form together and work cooperatively on solving some problems. We looked at actually what are the needs that many young people have today, because of course that's what the Rochdale Pioneers started with. You don't just try and invent a service just for the sake of it. You try and go in on where there's a gap in a market, and obviously young people today have got very varied needs. So we started from that point, and also not just going from what young people need, but actually how, when young people aren't having those needs met, what the impact that also has on the wider communities. So actually, yes, we're starting from a point of fixing young people problems, but actually that will have benefits across communities. Our kind of second other end of the spectrum project was working with the food team on developing the Gen 2 stores. And again, the gauntlet was laid down. We're really excited. We know there's loads of potential with the new format of these stores. But actually, if we don't attract younger customers through the door and younger members, then what we've gone through is a very expensive refit program, which has a shorter shelf life than if we have, if we can attract younger members in. And then another challenge that we actually had internally as well was how do you get 15 people from across the country to actually be able to work together on these kind of practical problems and come up with solutions. So we've actually spent a lot of time working together on developing a culture for the board and working out how we're going to work together. So lots of learning about ourselves and how we would work with each other, and finding the best way forward through continuous feedback and review. So that's actually been a kind of a project in itself.
Sounds fascinating. Really, really interesting stuff. Thank you, Ed. What role do you think the Young Members Board will play in the future governance of the group? You said that you'll be going on for another year. Do you think it's important that an organisation like the Co-operative has a Young Members Board and takes cues and interest from them as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of us have got a passion on the board for hopefully making ourselves redundant in the future. Because actually, when good governance works well, then actually you have diversity in your governance, and we're not talking about governance being just restricted to a few people on a board that we can all point to and go, yes, they are governance. It's actually active membership, and so what we're looking to do at the moment, we've been working on the miners review. We were part of that, and feeding into our feedback on the miners review on how actually, if you want to engage more people, actually starting with young people is a really good place to start, because actually if you make it accessible for younger people, you'll actually make it more accessible for everybody. And that's not about dumbing down or doing gimmicks. It's about being really clear on why people would want to give up their time to get involved in the co-op, what they're going to get back for it. And actually it's probably it would be argued that young people are more tuned in to that as a marketing method even, in a way that you can kind of relate to people. So there's that. And I think the other thing that is important we talk about values and principles a lot, and it's quite easy for us to get caught up in potentially even navel gazing about what that could mean, and actually, so we talk about education. self-help. And people in different generations and different backgrounds, those words will mean very, very different things to them. And actually, if you're wanting to engage people in coming along and working with those values, you need to have a conversation with people about what that actually means to them. So when I say the word education, what does that make me feel? What do I think, and how do I talk about that? And it's quite difficult to have those conversations with people if you're going to be very formal about it. Actually, what you want is peers talking to each other. So just like we want members going out and talking to the public about these principles, that works on all levels across all ages. I think the kind of future stuff that we're working on, we'd really like to be, for the value that we've brought so far to the group, we've done a number of reports, and we're happy to share those with anybody that we've done. I think the value that we've had at the moment has been has been limited, I think, by the fact that we've not been fully taken in and been part of the governance structure. So as an organisation that has placed a lot of value on its elected members, we have been slightly limited about how we can work with the group and work with the board. So in the future, where we would like to be is having maybe to start off with special designation for younger members, just so that we can get the foot in the door. And I think the value that we could bring to those sorts of boards are divergent thinking, different ways of looking at how that council should be. So, councils, particularly using that word, will attract a certain type of person of all ages. And actually, we want different thinking techniques. We want to be a lean, agile. We want to bring that kind of way of being into governance, because that would really make the group stand out from any other PLC board, for example. And I think the other thing that we've been thinking about is, and then through doing that and making that a more attractive offer for more members, we'll hopefully be able to get rid of the CYMB in years to come. Because actually what we'll know is that, when we've got good representation and the people that are on, in that structure are being taken seriously and are being valued for what they can bring, we know then that the job has been done.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really brilliant aspiration, that actually our governance should properly reflect all of our members, not just having a separate youth board and a separate member council or anything like that. So I think that's a fantastic aspiration. So things like influence, decision making is still going to be a really important part of governance in the future. So Ed, we've heard a bit from you about the Young Members Board. Joan, we've heard a bit from you about the Council. Andrew, can I just come back to you and ask a little bit more about how you think members are going to have a voice in and around the country? So maybe a member in the South West, how might they get involved in the future?
Sure, Sam. I think many ways. The key thing is that in the transition phase, our existing area committees continue. In the future, though, we're really starting with a blank piece of paper, and it's really inspirational to hear what Ed's saying, what Joan's saying about the possibilities. One of the roles of the council is to design how we engage members in the future, to really think about that. And to do that, the council's just established a number of work groups. One is about how it establishes itself. One is about structures that sit below the council, so ways in which we can engage members around community activity or member engagement. The other one's about members, and it's about members who will be heard in our society. And that's where the real opportunity lies now, because the council's starting with a blank piece of paper. We've got some idea of the function. We think we know what we want to achieve in terms of the outcome. What we don't know is how to do it. And it'd be fantastic to hear the views of members around the country about what they think are the best ways in which they can be heard and engaged in our society. And I think that's laid down the challenge. It's great to hear, and I think it's fantastic about what we can do in the future.
It is, absolutely, and things like this kind of technology is one potential way of doing it. Just while we're talking about this, Andrew, can you tell us about some of the other things the South West region has been doing to try and hear members' voices, and what other opportunities there might be in the immediate future if they want to come and have some of those discussions?
Yeah, of course. There are four ways that we have been listening to members this month, and they're going to continue for a little bit longer. So the first one has been about in-store meetings. We've done 14 in-store meetings around the region where we've gone to members where they shop and saying, what do you think about the shop? What do you think about what we do? And they've given us lots of really productive feedback. Second way, as you say, is these Hangouts, and it'd be great to see more of them and more members taking part. The third one is running throughout October, and that's our Co-op Let's Talk website, where we have a page for the South West, and it'd be great, again, to hear what members have to say, and they leave their comments on that. Sam, is it possible to put the web address up on the Google Plus page at the end of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll make sure that all the links to all of the forthcoming events and past events are on the Google Plus event page. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And then the fourth way is something that happens this weekend, and we're actually inviting members to 3 traditional meetings, one in Poole on Saturday at 11 o'clock, one in Plymouth on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and one in Bristol at 7 o'clock on Monday. And again, if members want to come and see us face to face, it'd be great to see members in those locations. And again, they can find out more on our member events website.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. It is just about 6:30, so that's about it for today. Thank you so much to my guests, Andrew, Joan, Ed, and Faye. Really appreciate you all being on. Viewers, if you've enjoyed today's Hangout, please go onto our feedback site, which will be on the event page on Google+, so that we can listen and learn for our next Hangout. Our next broadcast is on Thursday, the 23rd of October at 12:30. This will be the final broadcast from this series of Hangouts about members' meetings for 2014. And on that broadcast, we'll be looking back at some of the ways that we've been listening to members over this meeting period and reflecting on how we can continue to listen and learn from our customer members. So I hope you can all join us for that next Thursday at 12:30. And if you can't, then you can always watch us again on YouTube later. Thank you very much to my guests, and thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.